What I see is that, the old lights, they're the old style quantum boards. The new light is the bar style lights, which happens to spread the light out much more efficiently, much better.
One thing I do notice with LEDs, I do notice more often than not a phosphorus deficiency in the plants when using LEDs.
As far as PAR is concerned, regarding your light output of the light you're using, that if you go above 900 PAR, you're into the 1,000 PAR rating. They say you need to supplement with CO2.
Like if you want to save money and just see what your plant could do, just start with clean water, right? Add in some trace minerals, and then before you spend $1,000 in the light, just start with some clean water. Hey guys, you're here with Mark Batwell on Perfect Gardens TV. So you're here again with another great grow journal with Jason, one of our grow clients that has now led to our R&D facility for perfectgardens.com. And in this conversation, we're actually going to be getting into the subtleties of the difference in the light that Jason's noticing in the grow. And remember, we've went through 2 complete grows using, I don't want to say lower end equipment, because if you can get a great yield, I mean, is it really lower end equipment? We're just saying less expensive equipment. Make sure to check out our monthly membership. For as little as $2.99 a month, you get access now to 105 members, 2,586 photos, 274 videos, 21 files, 1,106 shared links, and much, much more. Please remember to also check out our Instagram and Facebook, because we'll be interacting and releasing much more there. Make sure to hit the join button on the bottom of every video. And now we have upgraded on the 3rd grow to pretty much the Cadillac of Cadillacs. And if you're interested in this light, go to metagrow.com, type in PG10 and save 10% on this light. But let's go ahead and get on over to Jason and let's talk about the subtleties you've noticed from your old lights you've used versus the new light. And what are you seeing?
What I see is that, the old lights, they're the old style quantum boards. The new light is the bar style lights, which happens to spread the light out much more efficiently, much better. The old style quantum boards create hot spots in your growing area. And if your plants get too close to it, that can vary widely among these Chinese lights of what is really too close, even if you follow their specifications on their website and keep it at their heights that they tell you to keep it at. If I were to grow it, like I have the Enfun EF2000, I think it's a 240 watt light panel. It's actually 2 light panels that are run with a Meanwell 240 watt AHB, I think, Meanwell driver. And if I was to keep my plants at the 12-inch height that they say I should be flowering at, 12 to 18 inches, all I end up with is a bunch of yellow tops, because they do an incredible job at bleaching your plant. Also, light stressing the plants too. I think you remember my last plant, it had white colas.
I do. It was the AK-47, right?
Yeah, it was still really tasty, yummy stuff. But it had white colas, so it really bleached that plant really well. I also, I have a plant in there now under those lights, and the top is, and I've got them up as high as I can. They're about 18 inches from the top of the plant, and I still have light bleaching happening.
One thing I do notice with LEDs, I do notice more often than not a phosphorus deficiency in the plants when using LEDs. I'm not sure if it's just LEDs and HIDs, but I do we've talked about this more. I don't know if the lights are, and this is a benefit. This is a good thing, right? It's forcing the plants to work harder. Not harder, but it's forcing the plants to do more photosynthesis possibly. And through more photosynthesis happening, it would make sense that you might need more phosphorus. And
correct, yes.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that subtlety we've been noticing?
Well, one of the ways I look at it is, they say, as far as PAR is concerned, regarding your light output of the light you're using, that if you go above 900 PAR, you're into the 1,000 PAR rating. They say you need to supplement with CO2. If there isn't enough CO2, and I don't know what happens. What if there isn't enough CO2 in the air for the plant to use? What does that do to the plant?
Well, this is actually really interesting because I'm really excited, and I don't mean to not answer your question, but we haven't been using CO2 in your room at all.
No.
And so I'm actually really excited to get to a point where we get a few mushroom bags and get a CO2 monitor and increase it just steadily, just a little bit, and just see, because I'm really excited. There's a few things, just adjusting the light and that CO2, because your nutrient lines is already solid. It's going to be exciting to just see what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. That's something I'm looking forward to. And this is actually this next grow that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be perfect because, it's wintertime here coming in California, or in Los Angeles. It's going to be wintertime soon. So the nighttime temperatures are going to be even colder. So I could run the light even higher, with the extra heat that outputs. I'll be able to handle that heat no problem. As it is now, I occasionally have to run the air conditioner in the room, in the long room anyway. So it's got cooler air to pull in to cool the tent off. But yeah, I thought also one of the reasons why I have my tents in the bedroom, and their light schedule runs at night, because we're in there sleeping, adding CO2 to the room, as just being in there. Having your plants in a room or in a building where people live will increase the ambient CO2 in that area.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm so excited because we're going to go in there. We're going to get an actual meter, record what it is, just your daily life of when you wake up, you leave, when you come back, and then we'll see what that is, and then we'll put in a mushroom bag, 1 or 2 mushroom bags, get it up to about 1,100 parts per million. I mean, if we can, maybe just increase it a couple hundred parts per million. Maybe it's just, do 800. Maybe it's the regular is like 500. We get it to 800. We'll be able to measure that difference, keep it consistent, and then measure out that yield. And just describing what we're talking about, right? So what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis, what do you need for photosynthesis? You need light, you need CO2, and you need water. And when you give it a better light and you already give it the cleanest water you can, again, with drops of balance, and just to kind of talk about clean water for a second and the significance of clean water. Most people don't realize that if you use just RO water, it's actually a little bit more efficient when you have some trace minerals in your water before you add in your regular nutrients. So just to be really clear, this is basic science. Go research it, go talk to other, PhD scientists in the field. They'll tell you this. But if you get hard water, or you get water that is tap water where your parts per million are 150, 300, 450, as it gets higher and higher and higher, it actually dramatically reduces the efficiency or effectiveness of your nutrients, your pesticides, your fungicides. Like, if you want to save money and just see what your plant could do, just start with clean water, right? Add in some trace minerals, and then before you spend $1,000 in the light, just start with some clean water, then get a little better light. Then the next step, what are you missing, right? CO2. So if we got great light, great water, we have a phenomenal light, the next thing we need to improve is going to be that CO2. So because we're talking about just increasing the productivity, or the productivity of the plant. Leaves, the plant. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's going to need more CO2. If not, we're making the plant deficient just because of these other 2 inputs we're doing from clean water and a better light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about it like that. And think about it too, right? If you have this big, I don't know about cars, but you have like this big block 350 horsepower vehicle, right? And then you have these little tiny wheels. Are they ever going to catch the road when you try to take off, right? I mean, normally they have larger wheels to catch and this is the same thing, right? If you're going to make an upgrade, you kind of got to think about all the supportive systems that upgrade is going to do, which goes back to the law of minimum and the law of tolerance.
Exactly. So CO2 is the gas or the road?
The gas or the road?
Or the tires? I'd say CO2 is the gas, right?
I would say so too. When you think about it, so the road, I would say it would be the humic layer and the water or something, right? And then I would definitely say the gas, is that CO2, because if you jack up that CO2 and you have shitty light,
That's why we're saying that once you get over that 1,000 par rating, if you can get 1,000 par, then that's where you need to start adding the CO2. Now, what I was getting at is if you have that great light and you turn it all the way up, and you have your temperature right, humidity right, but if you don't have that CO2 in there, it's not going to be able to produce according to the light. Well, and I imagine that would stress the plant out if it goes to look for those nutrients or the CO2, and it's not there, it's not going to be able to produce.
Yeah, another thing too with what we're describing, right, is when you increase that light, what happens, right? You have more light intensity. And it
Yeah.
does make sense if you're going to want to increase that CO2 again because of water moisture in the environment. With a higher CO2, you're gonna, I believe, if I remember straight, you're gonna have more water molecules in the environment. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
In the air, you mean?
In the air.
Right.
And with
I think so, yeah. Just
yeah,
like the atmosphere.
exactly. And so with more water molecules, it's going to not, the leaves won't get dried out as fast. And so it's going to be able to handle the more light intensity of the electrodes coming off of the LEDs.
That makes sense.
I'm excited.
CO2 water, but then everything has got to go up. If you have more water vapor in your air, that means you're going to have a higher humidity, which means you're going to need a higher temperature in order for the leaves to transpire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Because if the air is full of moisture, think of yourself sitting in a sauna trying to dry yourself off. It's impossible. Yeah. So the plant won't be able to transpire, and then your leaf temperature will get too hot.
It would make sense too, that you, like you're saying, you want a slightly warmer temperature to make those stomas larger so that
Right.
CO2 and oxygen is transpiring faster, because everything's going more.
If you were to look at a VPD chart, you'd see that the higher the temperature is, the higher humidity you want also. So it's kind of a range. Humidity is all relative to what the heat in the air, how dense the air is.
You know where the largest desert is in the world?
The Antarctica.
Exactly. What surrounds the Earth? Exactly. Yep. I'm just messing around. I'm always throwing in my flat earth stuff in whenever I can. But you're right, Antarctica, right? And it's because the moisture is frozen, and so there's no moisture in the air. Right. And a lot of people wouldn't think about that because you're surrounded by ice and water.
It's interesting too because it's really cold. So the hotter it is, the air spreads out more. And there's more room for moisture to actually fit in. The air molecules get smaller, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more room in the heat. So you need more humidity in order for the plants to transpire. The hotter it gets, you need more humidity. If there's not enough humidity, your plants will transpire too fast. And that's when you get the wilting that happens. It tries to close itself off to hold on whatever water it can hold on to. If you bump the humidity up, the plants will actually be able to transpire a little bit better.
Thinking about it a little bit too, I hope to God someone posts a comment and says, Mark, you're wrong on all this shit, because we're just thinking it out. And that's why I love thinking. I love to apply my own brain and not just read shit. I'm like, does this make sense to you, Mark? I have my little conversations in my head. And what we're talking about, right, is high pressure systems and low pressure systems. So in a hot environment, the molecules expand. So what you have is you have a low pressure system down below and a high pressure system up above, because the atmosphere expanded. And with it expanding, an atmosphere that normally isn't this high because it's in a cold environment is higher than what it normally would be. So that creates a high pressure system up in this higher environment. But when it's cold and it compresses, you end up having more atmosphere down on the ground because it's compressing. So you have a high atmosphere down below and you have a low atmosphere up above because all the molecules are pushing down the density. The law of density applies because the molecules are being pressed and condensed, which would make a lot of sense why you would want more CO2, right? Is because if all the molecules are expanding with a warmer environment, because it wouldn't make sense you want it, you would probably want more atmosphere in there in a sense to push it into the plant. Would that make sense at all?
Well, I mean, that's basically is what's happening when you're talking about VPD. It all has to do with the pressure inside the leaf itself. So, I mean, you can, and reverse osmosis also works that way. It's based on pressure.
Absolutely.
One side more saturated than the other causes the one that's saturated more to pull stuff out of the other one, out of the lower saturated side. So you have the high pressure up above, the low pressure below. One is going to pull into the other, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm actually going to be coming out with an amazing video. My dad, I shot with my dad 4 months ago. And I'll read a little bit actually with you right now. What he does is he gets a bag of uh,
Popcorn?
not biochar. Well, kind of foxhorn is part of it. Biochar, but not. It's like charcoal. Like it's charcoal that they haven't put lighter fluid in yet. It's just regular charcoal, and that charcoal is actually biochar. This is again marketing biochar, right? And no, it's the same charcoal you would buy to cook your food.
And so if I was to get a bag of that Kingsford old style charcoal, before they start at the just lights with a match, where they've added, if I just got a bag of that old style stuff, that would be biochar.
That would be biochar, exactly. And so what my dad does is he gets all his old bottles of fertilizer. We use a 55 gallon drum, but so he gets 1 or 2 bags of biochar. We jump the fence, get a whole bunch of manure from cows, and then we get all of our old fertilizer bottles and we dump it in there with water. And the biochar sucks up all the minerals out of the old bottles, basically, and we let it fermentate for about 3 to 5 months, and then from there it turns into this beautiful black slur that we end up laying it back into the soil and tilling it back into the soil.
I think you sell some of that on your website, don't you?
Well, this is all homemade.
Similar to that.
I don't sell everything I just said. I actually, it's literally like you just buy, it's the cheapest possible components you could buy. And it's all your trash fertilizer that's been sitting there for years and stuff. But it takes a 3 to 5 month process for the biochar to be activated.
Do you have to churn that around and mix it up every now and then, or just let it sit?
Pretty much just let it sit. You'll see a bubble and you'll see the CO2 fermentating. There's very little smell. It's really interesting because you would think it would be incredibly smelly and disgusting, but it actually ends up, when it's activated, it ends up doing its job.
Right. Yeah, you guys were talking about activating it on the Telegram site.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing which is kind of weird, you have a video about, do I need calcium in flowering? I have one plant that's got a major calcium deficiency. I don't know why.
Right now?
Yeah.
Are you in flowering?
Yeah, it's in its 8th week of flowering.
It's probably not a calcium deficiency. It's probably a toxicity, because the toxicity makes the plant, it creates a calcium and a magnesium deficiency look.
Right.
So it's probably a toxicity in the phosphorus that's what I love about consulting, right? It's like I have the exact same regimen for everyone. And and when something is not working, I'm able to like really draw back and be like, okay, I need to really take a double look at how I'm applying lingonite. What I've been thinking a lot is actually jacking up the phosphorus like a 2-to-1 on the lingonite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or a 3-to-1 on the lingonite. I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm thinking that it's one or the other. I want to play with these ratios where we can, like we said, like a 3-to-1 on like where it's very specific on the phosphorus, and we're jacking that up 2 or 3 times the amount, because we're playing with the minimum law of tolerance in these last 3 or 4 weeks. And if we really nicely tune in this law minimum where the phosphorus and potassium play this really even thing, because we're seeing it all the time, right? We're seeing a phosphorus deficiency consistent all the way through the board. If we believe in that,
that's a funny thing too, because I was using the strawberry fields, which is supposed to be higher in phosphorus than the ocean forest, and I put that in specifically in its flowering pot.
Yeah, but I want to show you this video,
and I've also been I use RO water, so they get CalMag every time I water them. CalMag and drops the balance. That's the minimum that's in the water. If I'm not giving them anything else, it's always got CalMag and drops the balance.
Well, and the drops balance, what it does is it really jacks up and it takes your threshold from here to there. Okay. So technically what you're really saying, what it's really doing is also expanding its ability to uptake stuff. And like you could add more. And I hate to say it like that because when you
more what?
Well, what I mean by that is when you increase that threshold, like if you have the minimum law of tolerance and these are your thresholds, and it jack up the lowest
one.
The lowest one, exactly. You jack up the lowest one, it then expands its limit for the other ones.
Yeah.
So then that's what we were discussing earlier, right? We're seeing we great water, we have great light, and we're consistently seeing that purple in the stems. And
Right.
and a lot of people say genetics, and I do hear that. I do take this into consideration. But when
all my plants now all have the they're purple at the leaf stems are all purple.
they're purple at the least, and so it makes me want to one day put 4 seeds in of the exact same genetics, or we get into clones and we just take 4 clones of the exact same genetics, put them in, and then on one of those plants we take your NPK phosphorus. But I don't even like that phosphorus either, specifically because I think it has potassium in there too. And I want to just increase the phosphorus and see if we can get rid of that purple. Because I have this other guy, and I'll send you over the videos on Telegram, where after a few days of jacking up the phosphorus, the purple went away. It faded completely away. And he's different. He has weaker lights. He's not in your situation where we're using really nice lights on top of everything. So it's like, I kind of want to start messing around with your phosphorus and langanite slightly and adjust it to a certain specific ratio where we get a back guano that says 0, 12, 0 or something or whatever, and then we get your langanite that has a 0, 0, 22. And now we play with these ratios that way.
The back one was really high in nitrogen, so.
Well, not the bag one. There's one specifically from Down to Earth that is like a 0, 12, 0. And it doesn't have to be from Down to Earth, but just looking for a natural amendment that has 0 nitrogen and 0 potash.
0, seabird guano.
Seabird guano, that one.
Yep, I have that.
Yeah, I want to play with that one and the langanite more on the last 4 weeks of flowering with you to see if we can also jack up your yield. But we can only do it one grow at a time. That's the most we can do.
Just got to be patient.
You got to be patient.
That's the big thing with the growing is patience. You got to have the patience.
Absolutely, because once we tune this recipe, it's now we just throw in whatever genetics possible and just see how much does our recipe and our methodology work for all of them and how much we're able to avoid in problems across the board.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
How many plants? You have 3 plants when you normally have 4.
3. Yeah, normally do 4. Well, one turned out to be a male. I didn't actually. I was gonna pollinate some branches, but I didn't do any of that. Maybe I'll try it on the next grow.
Is that male plant still growing?
No, that male plant was huge.
Did you kill it?
Yeah, I cut it down when I took all the pollen out of it. It was like I got so worried that it might pollinate all my plants.
Did you record the process when you took the pollen out?
I did take some pictures and video. It was kind of hard to do by myself without getting pollen everywhere.
Yeah, totally. Would you send me those whenever you get a chance? I'd love to see what it looks like.
Yeah, okay, we'll do.
All right, Jason, until the next grow, brother, I appreciate you. Oh, and also make sure to let me know if you like these grow journals by leaving a comment down below. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, everyone.
So the first set of lights I purchased were Enfun, a brand called Enfun. And I actually got 2 sets of those. They were 240 watt light panels, 2 panels equaling 240 watts. And after that, the other ones I purchased was Leno Focus.